Liturgy wars in India, more specifically in the Syro-Malabar Church in southern India. There is a war going on, has been going on for a while. So this is again a quickie video. Hopefully, so I was going to do a big long video on analyzing the whole situation. No need. You can. I mean, the whole point is there is a division. So now there's sanctions, division, or dialogue. What's the end of India's liturgy war? And this latest was June 14th. Up to June 16th, I have the latest report. Basically, there is no peace. So there, and this is again about the Syro-Malabar Church. The Syro-Malabar Church, which traces back its origin to St. Thomas the Apostle, the doubting Thomas, who went to India, and all the ancient churches in India come from St. Thomas the Apostle. And it's called Syro because of the Eastern Syriac Rite, which is its liturgy before its reform. Malabar is to the heartland and southwestern India, Malabar coast. And the problem was, and as is in many of the Eastern Rite churches, is that it has been heavily influenced by the Latin Church from around 1600, Latinizations. So the Latins have been, I don't like the way you use maybe leavened bread. No, use unleavened bread. We don't like the way you do this. I'll use that. So for 300 years of Latinization, and this is the result, a war. In 1999, after decades of debate, so basically since 1962, the ancient liturgy of the Syriac Rite was restored in the Malabar. So now you had the traditionalists, I guess, who maintained the ancient rite facing east all the time throughout the liturgy as it has come to them from St. Thomas and all the apostles, facing the Orient as is traditional in every single liturgy of the church. And the modernists who were following, they say, the dictates of Vatican II in having the whole liturgy facing the people. So, anyways, in 1999, after a decade of debate, the majority of the bishops endorsed the formula known as the uniform mode, in which the priest faces the people during the liturgy of the word, turns towards the altar for the liturgy of the Eucharist, and that faces the people again after communion, doing the hokey pokey and turning around. Anyways, so and what they called this was the 50-50 formula, as a sensible compromise between the church's ancient tradition, which is the apostolic tradition of every single ancient church, in which the priest was positions ad orientem, faced towards the east, and versus the post-Vatican II practice because it happened because why? Of the Latinizations, because these priests in there, Rome does that, so let's do it too, even though it goes against all of our traditions, when the priest faces the people throughout the liturgy. So this is the situation. So they went to the 50-50 formula, compromise between the apostolic tradition and the novelty introduced after the Second Vatican Council in the West. So they were not hot or cold. They decided the best course of action is to be lukewarm. So let Jesus judge them for that. But I mean, from what I've seen, the liturgy, the Syro-Malabar Rite looks beautiful compared to your typical Novus Ordo liturgy, just because it did a half traditional. So maintaining the original half traditional version, and actually they introduced the vernacular in the 1960s again, following the Latinizations of the West. Just like little, pets of Rome, they follow exactly where, somebody's going to go off the cliff, they'll follow you off the cliff. No, they're not maintaining their tradition. Anyways, I'm going to read a few headlines, and we're going to finish up the, this situation, what's going on. So from December 6, 2022, Catholics in India are barred from cathedral after liturgical dispute leads to clashes. So there were clashes in Kerala, in the Kerala state, because of these liturgy disputes. So people are going up in arms inside the very cathedral. And it continues. kind of got a little slow computer today, doesn't want to load up. So the Syro, again, that's from May 29th, 2023. Syro-Malabar Church blames Basilica closure on liturgy protests. So these people in this diocese, so most of the dioceses, I think 33 out of 34, they said, fine, we'll, after some resistance, we'll accept the half and half liturgy, like half and half cream, okay, half traditional, half Vatican II Novus Ordo. We'll do a combo version. Okay, fine. At least we maintain some of the tradition. But this diocese said, no. We want full post-Vatican II priest facing the people all the time. It is tradition, after all. It's been 50 years of tradition, and that is actually their argument. Their argument is, we've had 50 years. 50 years, this is a tradition we've received, and we want to keep it. 50 years compared to the 2,000-year tradition of the ancient church. July 20th, 2022, the church's other liturgy war talks about Traditionis Custodes and how Francis, the Bishop of Rome, reignited the liturgy war for the West, for the Latins. And let's continue here. So in August 8th, 2022, protests in India draws 50,000 Catholics over the dispute over the bishop's resignation. So this bishop of that diocese was basically forced out of office by the Vatican because he basically said, first there was, I guess, he issued an exception for people, for his priests, for those who want to follow the 50-50 uniform liturgy, as they call it, or maintain the ancient tradition of 50 years of having the liturgy facing the people all the time. So these Indian Catholics are calling for justice after the bishop's resignation. He was basically forced to resign by the Vatican. So Syro-Malabar Archbishop, he says, Nuncio said resign in 24 hours or be removed. This is the light hand, the loving hand of the Vatican, even though the Vatican, in this case, actually was pushing for a uniform liturgy instead of, where is the diversity in unity and unity in diversity? No, they want uniformity, as the single expression of the Roman Rite being the fake fabricated liturgy of Paul VI of 1960s, of, Francis. Anyways, actually that Archbishop wanted, at least he gave he had truly a pastoral sense of, okay, fine, let's go with the uniform liturgy. And for those priests who are not willing, you can stay with the ancient tradition of 50 years of liturgy facing the people. So I guess the Archbishop actually had to go to the hospital. He went, so September 2nd, 2022, ousted Archbishop at center of liturgy dispute is hospitalized. He had some kind of a stroke, safe and effective, as they say. And in October 18th, 2022, Syro-Malabar Catholics block Archbishop's house to protest change in the Mass. So imagine, like, they're actually protesting the partial return to the ancient apostolic St. Thomas practice of the liturgy. But they're protesting against the return to the ancient rite, not even fully, even half off, and they're not like, at least they show some zeal, some zeal. If Catholics of the West, the Latins, had some zeal of refusing to succumb to the diktats of the novelty perpetrators, the propagators of heteropraxis in the Catholic Church, none of that would have happened. So there's an archbishop, I guess he's again in this big, huge dispute. He actually asked for police protection to protect him from the people. I guess he's the one, after the other archbishop was removed. He wants to be protected from the people over the liturgy dispute. And he warns the faithful. He tells them, look, Vatican will discipline priests. That's in December 23rd, 2022. Vatican may discipline priests over liturgy protests. So, a little, lapdog of the Vatican. Again, we continue. It is January 7th, 2023. where things stand in the Syro-Malabar Liturgy War. And there's brawls, as it says here, that happened. Where does it? Is it on this one here? But anyways, there's brawls inside the cathedral, people hitting each other, attacks on the altar, um, people protesting the priests. It's all thanks to basically Vatican to the liturgical deform, which emanated after the Second Vatican Council, happening in the West, in the Roman Rite. But of course, since a lot of Eastern churches follow like lapdogs, even the vomit which comes off of anything the Vatican does, and they lick it up, they just follow straight along, and ruined their liturgy. And now they're trying to return partially to the ancient rite, and there's a big dispute. Even though Vatican II specifically told them to return to their traditions, as we shall see if I close up this video. January 16th, 2023, Syro-Malabar Synod fails to resolve a violent row over the Mass. So again, there is this Synod of Bishops of the Syro-Malabar Church that are trying to figure out what do we do, what can we do to kind of restore the peace. The cathedral has been shut down for like 200 days or 250 days. I don't remember exactly how long, a very long time, because of these disputes. Man, that's in May 22nd, 2023, man vandalizes altar at church, engulfed in liturgy dispute. Again, the liturgy dispute being, again, as a reminder, Mass facing the people in this diocese wanted the Mass to continue to be just facing the people. Never turn your back on the congregation, even though it's actually facing God with the congregation, leading them into the gates of heaven. In accordance with the Rite of St. Thomas, which they call themselves St. Thomas Christians. Well, follow what the St. Thomas gave you, not what Paul VI gave you. It says here, there's a man vandalized an altar of a church during Eucharistic liturgy in southern India on Sunday. So it happened on May 21st. So this is the same where there's a vehement liturgical dispute in the Syro-Malabar Catholic Church. And this guy is actually smashing or hitting the main altar, the altar facing the people. So is he just drunk, or is he somebody who just hates the Mass facing the people? He's one of the old traditionalists, maybe? I have no idea. Or he just seems like kind of just an angry man. But look, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. So, of course, half the liturgy facing the people, half the liturgy facing God. This is what's happening. And you can see here, again, in India, they still maintain the ancient tradition. Men on one side of the church, women on the other side of the church, as it is even in the 1917 Code of Canon Law of the West. It is actually recommended that this continue, the ancient practice be observed. Anyways, that's enough of that. And the situation continues. June 1st, 2023, Syro-Malabar priest warns vindictive approach, which has been warned of by this archbishop, won't solve liturgy dispute. So, and why all of this? Well, it started with first the Latinization of the liturgy of the Syro-Malabar Church, and I'm certain they did not have I could be wrong, the unleavened host in their liturgy, because all you have to do is compare them to the Orthodox, the Oriental Orthodox branch of their church, and they probably don't. And they're always facing east. So I guess now the only way to find full intact apostolic liturgy is in the Orthodox or Oriental Orthodox churches, because apparently those in full communion with Rome, as they should be, as they must be with the successor of Peter, have abandoned and perverted their own liturgical heritage to imitate the novelties of the West. This could be changed back again, hopefully, God willing. Pre-skeptical emergency. So this is June 14th, 2023, just a few days ago. Pre-skeptical emergency summit of Syro-Malabar bishops will solve disputes. Again, there's a dispute is going on and on and on. And as predicted by the bishop, by this priest, June 16th, 2023, they had a solution, I guess, a compromise, an agreement, but it appears to have been this agreement to have broken down. So no end to this liturgy dispute with its 50-50 formula and the uniform rite, instead of having the apostolic rite of St. Thomas in its integrity, the traditional Syro-Malabar rite in its integrity as it must be restored. Actually, even Pope Francis sent them a letter to the priests, actually telling them to personal appeal by Francis. And at the end, see, I don't even actually what do you call it? Insult Jorge, because he himself never, ever, ever writes PP or Pope or nothing on his encyclicals, letters. Just Francisco, just Francis, your buddy Francis. All right. And we're going to end it here with what, because their excuse for waging this liturgy war, well, half and half. First, there's a compromise between traditionalists following the full liturgy of St. Thomas and the modernists, the novelty seekers, adherers to the novelties emanating from the Latin West after the Second Vatican Council, of have the liturgy facing the people all the time. I don't even know if the content of the liturgy itself has been altered or not. I'm not sure. There might have been some changes too. And their excuse is, oh, Vatican II said we should do that. No, that is ended. It's a tradition of 50 years. I'm going to show you, actually, I'm going to end it with a book recommendation. But before that, let's go with what Vatican II say. And I'm going to take my face off because this thing doesn't show full screen. So let's do it that way. All right, here. This is the, oh, jeez. Move my face out of the way. Here we go. So this is the Vatican II decree on the Oriental churches. So it talks to them that the church holds with high esteem the institutions, liturgical and ecclesiastical traditions, and established standards of Christian celebrity of the Eastern churches. And of course, it goes by definition to the West. And their venerable traditions, there remains conspicuous tradition that has been handed down by the Apostolic, by the apostles through the fathers, and which forms part of the divinely revealed and undivided heritage of the universal church. So the ancient rites. So each individual church or rite should retain its traditions, whole and entire. That is Vatican II. Vatican II to you stupid idiots of the Syro-Malabar Church who want to keep the Mass facing the people. And for the bishops, the lukewarm bishops who said, let's go 50-50. Let's go 50 traditional and 50 Novus Ordo. No, you go full traditional, full retain its traditions, whole and entire. And this goes east for where these individuals, whether east or west. So what's going on with the West? The West, the Vatican II says something, and then it throws it down the toilet, and the Eastern churches follow suit. The Sacred Council, Vatican II, not only accords to this ecclesial and spiritual heritage the high regard, ecclesial and spiritual heritage with its high regard, which is due and rightful praise, but also unhesitatingly looks on it as the heritage of the universal church. So even these ancient rites of the East are heritage of the universal church. All members of the Eastern rites should always preserve their legitimate liturgical rite and their established way of life, and that these may not be altered. Of course, there's an organic development, that's fine. And for all the Latinizations which happen in a lot of the Eastern churches, what did Vatican II say? Steps must be taken to return to their ancestral traditions. Do you hear that? Syro-Malabar people who want the liturgy always facing the people. The Sacred Council confirms and approves the ancient discipline of the sacraments existing in the Oriental Church, and also their ritual practices connected with their celebration and administration ardently desires that this should be re-established if circumstances warranted. So this is what Vatican II says, you people. This is what Vatican II says. You have to adhere to your ancient rite, your ancient liturgy, your ancient discipline. And in case it went out of style, as they say, you should restore it. And this is the solution to the liturgical dispute. And I'm going to end it here with a book recommendation. I've read this book many years ago. It's called The Banished Heart: The Origins of Heteropraxis in the Catholic Church by Jeffrey Hall. Big book. Actually, excellent book. I've read it many, many, many years ago. And he actually has a section here on ruins in the East. Ruins in the East. And he talks about a lot of what's happened to the Eastern liturgies through the Latinizations, basically the altering of the ancient rites of the East by Catholic missionaries. Instead of holding on to their traditions, they actually forced them to alter their traditions. And anyways, I was going to go read a few things from it, but there's only one section here which deals with our subject. The new Latinizations. Anyways, chaos and querela. So this is way before we have our liturgy disputes happening here. Chaos and Kerala, which is this part of India. And it says here, most deplorable of all was the post-conciliar situation in Kerala, which is in India, where after Vatican II, a liturgical revolution comparable to the Roman one was visited upon the long-suffering Malabarese faithful. And I'm not going to read more than that for now. But this is an excellent book to see why. It made me cry, honestly, to see the ancient liturgies, even of Ethiopia, being altered. And does one have to be an Orthodox person or not in communion with Rome to maintain his right? I think there is another, the Malankara Church of India maintains its liturgy in its integrity compared to the Syro-Malabar, and they're Catholic as well. Anyways, this is the update of the liturgical war in India going up to this very moment. Let's hope it ends in goodness. So maybe they can return to the uniform liturgy 50-50 and eventually return to the full liturgy of St. Thomas, the traditional rite of the Syro-Malabar Church, not in the innovative novelties introduced after Vatican II. That's it. That's all. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.